Commander Kelvak adjusted his optical sensors for the third time in 10 minutes, staring at the pristine white containment cell through layers of reinforced transpari steel. The Galactic Research Consortium's newest facility hummed with the quiet efficiency of a billion-credit operation, each surface gleaming under artificial light that could sterilize a plague ship. Everything was perfect, controlled, predictable. Exactly how civilized beings conducted science. Status report, he clicked through his mandibles, not bothering to look at the junior technician hunched over his monitoring console. Subject remains stable, Commander, Blex replied, his tentacles dancing across holographic displays. Biometrics show normal ranges for, well, normal for a Deathworlder, sir? Heart rate 68 beats per minute, blood pressure within acceptable parameters, brain activity suggests she's actually reading. Kelvak's antenna twitched with amusement. Reading. How quaint. I suppose even the most primitive species develop basic pattern recognition. He gestured with one of his 4 arms toward the containment cell. Look at it, Blex. No natural armor plating, no bioluminescent communication organs, no defensive spines or toxin sacs, just soft pink flesh wrapped around a calcium framework. The fact that Terra 3 produced an apex predator from such pathetic biological material is frankly insulting to natural selection. Dr. Nim Ara, the facility's lead behavioral analyst, glanced up from her research pad. Her silver-scaled head tilted in that way that suggested she was about to say something her colleagues wouldn't appreciate. Commander, with respect, our preliminary data suggests these humans may be more complex than initial assessments indicated. The subject has been remarkably cooperative, almost strategically so. Strategic cooperation. Kelvak's laugh was a series of sharp clicks. Nimara, you've been spending too much time analyzing lower-tier species. The creature is simply displaying submission behavior. Perfectly normal response to superior technology and intellect. He tapped the transparent barrier with one claw. 18 layers of molecular bonded armor, gravity manipulation fields, atmospheric controls, and enough firepower to level a small city. If this Luna Martinez had 2 functioning neural pathways, she'd be cowering in the corner, not sitting there like she's at some sort of leisure facility. Alex's nervous giggle filled the observation chamber. Perhaps that's exactly why she's so calm, sir. Maybe she doesn't understand the danger she's in. I mean, look at her. She's just sitting there, cross-legged on the floor, reading that data tablet we gave her. No pacing, no panic responses, no attempts to test the containment barriers. It's almost like she's... Like she's what? Kelvak demanded. Like she's waiting for something, sir. The commander's optical sensors narrowed as he studied the human female. Luna Martinez appeared to be in her 3rd decade of life, with short dark hair and unremarkable brown eyes. She wore the standard gray prisoner uniform, sat with perfect posture, and hadn't moved from that spot in over 6 hours. No normal sentient being remained that still unless they were either dead or planning something catastrophically stupid. Waiting, Kelvak mused, his voice dripping with condescension. Yes, I'm sure she's waiting. Waiting for rescue from her technologically inferior species, waiting for divine intervention from whatever primitive deities her kind worships, or waiting for us to simply forget she exists and accidentally leave a door unlocked. He turned away from the observation window. He continued monitoring. I want detailed behavioral analysis every hour. If this Deathworlder so much as sneezes in an unexpected pattern, I want to know about it. As the commander's footsteps echoed down the corridor, Dr. Nimara remained at her station, silver eyes fixed on the human. Something about Luna Martinez's stillness felt wrong. Not defeated wrong, not frightened wrong, but calculated wrong. Like a predator that had already chosen its prey. Subject acquisition report? For the record, Dr. Nim Ara spoke into her voice recorder, her eyes never leaving the containment cell. Luna Martinez, age 29 standard years, captured during what Earth Command classified as a routine diplomatic mission to the Kithara system. Intelligence suggests she was the mission's communications specialist. though her personnel file indicates training in multiple disciplines, including xenobiology, tactical analysis, and what humans call survival skills. She paused, watching Luna turn a page of the data tablet with the same methodical precision she'd displayed for the past 18 hours. The capture itself was almost embarrassingly simple. Her ship responded to our distress beacon, approached under standard humanitarian protocols, and walked directly into our containment field. Either humans are incredibly naive, or this Martinez individual wanted to be captured. Neither explanation sits well with me. Blix's tentacles twitched nervously as he monitored the readouts. Doctor, her brain patterns are still showing those unusual theta wave configurations. According to our database, most species exhibit either fear-based gamma spikes or submission-based delta patterns when confined. But she's maintaining what our computers can only classify as active meditation. That's not normal. Is it? Define normal, Nim-Era replied dryly. According to Galactic standard behavioral protocols, she should have progressed through the 7 stages of captivity by now. Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, resignation, and finally compliance. Instead, she skipped directly to what appears to be analytical observation. She's studying us, Blex, while we're studying her. The facility's containment protocols were a marvel of engineering paranoia. 18-inch thick transpari steel walls infused with quantum-locked molecular bonding. Atmospheric composition monitored and controlled to the parts per billion level. Gravity fields that could be adjusted from 0 to 5 times Terra standard in milliseconds. Temperature controls ranging from absolute 0 to plasma-level heat. Neural dampening fields to prevent psychic species from projecting thoughts. And enough automated defensive systems to repel a small invasion force. The fascinating part, Nim-Era continued, is that humans weren't supposed to be psychologically complex enough to warrant such measures. Our initial assessment classified them as moderately intelligent pack predators with primitive tool usage and basic social structures. The kind of species that throws rocks and screams when threatened. She gestured toward Luna, who had just set down the data tablet and was now examining her fingernails with the same careful attention she'd given the reading material. Oh, that creature hasn't raised her voice once, hasn't tested the barriers, hasn't demanded to speak with commanders or made threats about her government's response. She said thank you when we provided the reading material and please when she requested water. Polite, cooperative, utterly compliant. Ishimp. So why does she terrify me more than a battle-mad Korthak warrior? Blex's nervous giggle returned. Maybe because the Korthak warriors at least have the courtesy to announce their intentions with ritual combat screams? Exactly, Nim-Era said, her voice dropping to a whisper. A screaming enemy is predictable. A calm enemy is either broken or planning something extraordinary. And Luna Martinez doesn't look broken to me. The human had begun a series of what appeared to be stretching exercises, moving through positions that seemed to flow from one to the next with practiced ease. Her breathing remained steady, her expression peaceful, almost meditative. Every movement was controlled, purposeful, economical. Computer, Nim-Era called out, run a predictive analysis on subject behavior patterns. I want to know what she's doing and why she's doing it. Analysis complete. The artificial intelligence responded immediately. Subject is performing what Earth databases classify as yoga and tai chi. Purposes include physical conditioning, mental focus, and stress reduction. Recommendation: continue observation. Subject poses no immediate threat to containment. Dr. Nim-Era stared at the readout, her scales rippling with unease. The computer was wrong. She could feel it in every instinct evolution had granted her species. Luna Martinez wasn't reducing stress. She was preparing for something. Day 3 of behavioral analysis, Commander Kelvak announced as he strode into the observation chamber, sitting his forearms gesturing with the theatrical flair of someone who enjoyed having an audience. Time to begin formal questioning procedures. Blex, activate the communication array. Let's see what profound insights this primitive Deathworlder can share with civilized science. The communication system hummed to life, and Luna looked up from her morning stretching routine with what could only be described as genuine interest. Not the wide-eyed terror of a cornered animal, not the defiant glare of a warrior, but the polite attention of someone meeting new acquaintances at a social gathering. "Good morning," Luna said, her voice carrying clearly through the speakers. "I hope everyone slept well. The artificial day-night cycle you've programmed is quite thoughtful, thank you." Kelvac's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. How quaint. The specimen expresses gratitude for basic life support functions. He leaned toward the communication pickup. "I am Commander Kelvac of the Galactic Research Consortium. You are Luna Martinez, Communications Specialist of the Terran Diplomatic Corps. You will answer our questions truthfully and completely." "Of course," Luna replied, settling into a comfortable cross-legged position. "I'm happy to help with your research. Though I should mention my official title was Communication and Cultural Liaison Specialist. The distinction might be important for your records." Nimara's optical sensors narrowed. The human was correcting their intelligence data while simultaneously appearing helpful. Either she was remarkably naive about her situation or remarkably clever about misdirection. "Tell us about human military capabilities," Kelvac demanded, his tone suggesting he expected either lies or ignorance. Luna considered this thoughtfully. "That's a pretty broad topic. Are you interested in historical development, current tactical doctrine, technological capabilities, or something more specific? I'd hate to waste your time with irrelevant information." The commander's antenna twitched with surprise. Most prisoners either refused to answer military questions or babbled everything they knew in a panic. This human was offering to organize her response for maximum efficiency. "Current tactical doctrine," he said finally. "Well, human military thinking has evolved considerably over the past few centuries," Luna began, her tone as casual as if she were discussing weather patterns. "We've moved from primarily territory-based conflicts to more complex scenarios involving multiple variables: resource management, population dynamics, environmental factors, psychological warfare, technological adaptation. It's really quite fascinating how the principles scale from individual combat to interstellar diplomacy." She paused, seeming to gather her thoughts. "Of course, the most important lesson we've learned is that superior technology doesn't automatically guarantee victory. History is full of examples where technologically advanced forces were defeated by opponents who better understood the strategic environment." Kelvac's confident demeanor flickered for just a moment. "You speak as if humans have experience in interstellar warfare." "Oh no," Luna said with a gentle smile. "We don't. But we do have extensive experience in asymmetric conflict resolution. David and Goliath situations, you might say. Humans have always been rather good at figuring out how to make bigger, stronger opponents work against themselves." The observation chamber fell silent except for the hum of monitoring equipment. Blix's tentacles had stopped moving entirely, frozen over his control panel. Even the automated systems seemed to pause, as if the facility's artificial intelligence was processing unexpected data. "She's cataloging our responses," Nimara said quietly, her voice barely audible. "Look at her eye movements. She's watching us watch her, measuring our reactions, filing away information about how we process threats." "Nonsense," Kelvac snapped, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. "She's simply cooperative, compliant, probably hoping for better treatment." "Commander," Luna's voice drifted through the speakers, "I don't mean to interrupt, but would it be possible to get a tour of the facility? I'm genuinely curious about your research methods. The containment design is really quite impressive from an engineering perspective." Kelvac stared at the human for a long moment. "You want a tour? If it's not too much trouble. I understand security protocols might make that difficult, but I thought it couldn't hurt to ask. I promise I'll be very well behaved." The way she said well behaved made Nimara's scales ripple with alarm. It wasn't a promise of submission. It was the kind of thing a predator might say right before it demonstrated exactly how dangerous good behavior could be. Security Chief Korth's emergency communication crackled through the facility's speakers at precisely 2:03, his gravelly voice carrying the kind of tension that made seasoned researchers drop their instruments and pay attention. All senior staff to observation deck immediately. We have a situation with the human subject. Dr. Nimara arrived first, her claws clicking against the polished floor as she practically sprinted through the corridors. Commander Kilvak followed moments later, his usual pompous stride replaced by something approaching actual urgency. Blix was already at his station, tentacles trembling as he manipulated the holographic displays. "What's the emergency?" Kilvak demanded, his forearms spreading in aggressive display. "Has the containment been compromised?" "No, sir," Korth replied, his scarred exoskeleton bearing the marks of a career spent dealing with dangerous specimens. Containment is holding perfectly. But at exactly 2:01, the human began exhibiting new behavior. Nimara leaned forward, studying the live feed. Luna Martinez sat in her usual position, cross-legged on the floor, hands resting peacefully on her knees. Nothing appeared different except for one small, terrifying detail. She was smiling. Not a grimace of pain, not a nervous tick, not the vacant expression of someone losing their sanity. A genuine, peaceful, almost satisfied smile. The kind of expression someone might wear after solving a particularly challenging puzzle. "How long has she been like this?" Nimara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. 2 minutes and 17 seconds, Blax reported, his voice shaking. Biometrics show she's completely calm. Heart rate actually decreased. Brain activity suggests deep focus, almost meditative. But that smile, it appeared suddenly, like someone had just given her very good news. Kelvak studied the display with growing unease. Perhaps she's finally succumbing to psychological pressure. Isolation can cause various forms of mental breakdown in primitive species. Delusional thinking, false hope, complete detachment from reality. Commander Korth interrupted, his tone grim. "I've been reviewing the security footage from the past 72 hours. You need to see this." The main display shifted to a compilation of recorded moments. Luna reaching toward the water dispenser, her fingers trailing along the wall panel for just a fraction longer than necessary. Luna stretching near the containment barrier, her hand seemingly accidentally brushing against the energy field projector housing. Luna sitting quietly, but her eyes tracking ventilation patterns, emergency lighting systems, and structural support points. "She's been mapping the entire facility," Korth continued. "Every casual movement, every innocent gesture, every moment of cooperation has been data collection. Look at this." The display zoomed in on Luna's recent stretching routine. What had appeared to be simple exercise was revealed as systematic testing. Each position brought her within reach of different systems. Each movement tested the response time of automated sensors. Each breath measured air circulation patterns. "She asked for that tour yesterday," Nimara said, her scales now rippling with full alarm. Not because she was curious. Because she wanted to confirm what she'd already deduced about our layout. "Impossible," Kilvak protested, but his mandibles were clicking rapidly, a sign of deep agitation. "The containment protocols are impenetrable. Molecular bonded transpari steel, quantum locks, gravitational fields, neural dampeners, even if she understood our technology, which is impossible for a primitive species, there's no way to breach the barriers without tools." "Who says she needs tools?" Korth asked quietly. On the display, Luna's smile widened just slightly. Her eyes opened, looking directly at the observation camera. For one heart-stopping moment, it seemed as if she could see through the one-way barrier, see directly into their shocked faces. Then she spoke, her voice carrying clearly through the communication system, despite not having requested permission to speak. "Thank you for the comprehensive facility tour, Commander Kelvak." The indirect approach was much more informative than a standard guided visit would have been. The observation chamber fell into stunned silence. Luna hadn't received a tour. Luna had been locked in containment for 3 days straight. Unless she's been conducting her own tour, Nim Era breathed. Every interaction, every question we asked, every system she observed while we observed her. She's been building a complete operational profile of this facility. Luna stretched again, the movement now clearly revealing itself as anything but casual. She was loosening muscles, preparing joints, optimizing her physical condition for something requiring precise coordination and explosive movement. "Computer," Kilvac said, his voice cracking slightly, "run full diagnostic on all containment systems. Priority Alpha protocols. All systems operating within normal parameters." The AI responded immediately. No breaches detected. No anomalies recorded. But Luna's smile suggested otherwise. Her smile suggested that the real test was about to begin. At exactly 2:04, Luna Martinez stopped moving. Not the gradual settling that preceded sleep, not the slow relaxation of someone finally succumbing to exhaustion, but an instant transition from motion to absolute stillness that was so complete it seemed to violate the basic laws of biology. One moment she was stretching, the next she was a statue carved from flesh and bone. "Biometric readings," Korth barked, his scarred exoskeleton reflecting the emergency lighting that had automatically activated throughout the facility. Heart rate dropping rapidly, Blix reported, his tentacles dancing across the controls with increasing desperation. 60 beats per minute, 50, 40, 35, and stabilizing. Blood pressure normalizing. Respiratory rate decreasing to "This can't be right." "What can't be right?" Kilvac demanded, his forearms gesturing frantically at the displays. "She's breathing 4 times per minute, Commander. 4. Most mammals require at least 12 to maintain consciousness, and humans supposedly need 16 to 20. At this rate, she should be unconscious within minutes." Dr. Nimara stepped closer to the observation window, her silver scales reflecting the harsh lighting as she studied Luna's motionless form. The human sat in perfect meditation posture, spine straight, hands resting on her knees, eyes closed. But something about the stillness felt wrong on a fundamental level. "Brain activity report," she ordered quietly. That's the strangest part," Blix whispered, his voice carrying the tone of someone who was beginning to question everything he thought he knew about biology. "Neural activity is increasing, not decreasing. Theta waves are spiking beyond normal parameters. It's like her brain is becoming more active while her body shuts down." "Hibernation response," Kilvac suggested, but his voice lacked conviction. "Some species entered dormant states when faced with insurmountable stress. Perhaps humans have a similar mechanism." "No," Nimara said firmly, her eyes never leaving Luna's still form. "This isn't hibernation. This isn't sleep. This isn't even meditation in any biological sense we understand." She turned to face the others, her expression grim. "I've studied predator behavior across 47 different species. I've watched Korthak battle warriors prepare for ritual combat, observed Vexthari assassins enter their killing trances, analyzed the neural patterns of Zephyrian hunters during their legendary stalking phases. What we're seeing right now isn't rest or retreat." "Then what is it?" Korth asked, though his tone suggested he already suspected the answer. "Preparation," Nimara replied. "She's entered what human military manuals call combat meditation. It's a technique that allows soldiers to slow their metabolism, increase mental focus, and prepare their bodies for extreme physical exertion. But according to our intelligence, only the most elite human warriors can achieve this state, and even then, only for brief periods." The facility's automated systems began running additional scans, flooding the containment cell with various forms of analysis. Thermal imaging showed Luna's body temperature dropping by several degrees. Electromagnetic sensors detected unusual neural activity patterns. Gravitational monitors confirmed that her mass distribution was shifting in subtle ways that suggested her very bone density was changing. "How is this possible?" Blix asked, his tentacles trembling as he processed the incoming data. "She's altering her own biology through mental discipline alone." Our species requires advanced technology to achieve similar physiological control. That's the problem with underestimating primitive species, Era said, her voice carrying a note of grudging respect. We assume that because they lack our technology, they lack our capabilities. But evolution doesn't care about technology. Evolution cares about survival, and Luna Martinez is demonstrating exactly why humans survived long enough to develop space travel. On the display, Luna's stillness became even more profound. Her chest barely rose and fell, her pulse had slowed to levels that should have rendered her unconscious, and her brain activity had organized itself into patterns that the facility's computers couldn't classify. She had become something beyond the normal parameters of human biology. "Security alert," Korth announced, his voice cutting through the scientific discussion. "I'm implementing full lockdown protocols. Whatever she's doing, I want every system on maximum alert." Glass doors sealed throughout the facility. Emergency power systems activated. Automated defensive turrets emerged from hidden compartments. The containment cell's gravitational fields increased to twice Earth normal. Neural dampening fields reached maximum intensity. Every conceivable safety measure designed to contain the most dangerous specimens in the galaxy snapped into place. But Luna Martinez didn't react to any of it. She remained perfectly still, perfectly calm, perfectly prepared for whatever came next. "Computer," Ara said quietly. "Analyze the subject's current state and provide a threat assessment." Analysis complete, the AI responded after a longer pause than usual. "Subject has entered an unknown physiological state. Recommend immediate containment protocol upgrade to maximum security classification. Warning, current behavioral patterns do not match any known biological responses in the database." Translation, Korth said grimly. "The computer doesn't know what she's doing either, but it's recommending we treat her like a weapon of mass destruction." In the containment cell, Luna Martinez remained motionless. But somehow her stillness had become the most terrifying thing any of them had ever witnessed. Because it wasn't the stillness of defeat or surrender. It was the stillness of an apex predator that had finished choosing its moment to strike. At 2:07, Luna Martinez opened her eyes. The transition from perfect stillness to explosive motion happened so fast that the facility's high-speed cameras barely captured it. One frame showed her in meditation pose, the next showed her in mid-leap toward the containment cell's water dispenser, her body moving with the fluid precision of someone who had rehearsed every movement 1,000 times in her mind. "What is she doing?" Kelvac shouted, his mandibles clicking frantically as alarms began blaring throughout the facility. "She's taking apart the water dispenser," Blax reported, his voice climbing several octaves. "But that's impossible. It's molecularly bonded. The components can't be separated without industrial-grade tools." Luna had somehow wedged her fingers into microscopic seams in the dispenser housing and was applying leverage with surgical precision. 3 days of casual observation had revealed structural weak points invisible to standard analysis. The supposedly unbreakable device began separating into component parts with barely audible clicks. "Increase gravitational field to maximum," Korth ordered. "That should immobilize her." The gravity generators hummed to life, flooding the containment cell with crushing force that should have pressed Luna flat against the floor. Instead, she adjusted her stance and continued working, her movements becoming more deliberate but no less effective. She had somehow calculated the exact changes needed to compensate for the increased gravitational load. "She's using the gravity field to her advantage," Era breathed, watching in fascination as Luna wedged a piece of the dispenser housing against the floor and used the enhanced gravity to apply tremendous braking force to a structural joint. "She's turning our own countermeasures into tools." Within minutes, Luna had disassembled the water dispenser into a collection of components that shouldn't have been separable. Thin metal strips, crystalline focusing elements, magnetic field generators, and what appeared to be some kind of resonance chamber. She arranged them on the floor with the methodical precision of a technician following a blueprint. "Security response team to containment level." Korth barked into his communicator. "Full tactical deployment." No, Nimera said sharply. Don't send anyone down there. Look what she's building. Luna had begun connecting the dispenser components in configurations that made no sense according to standard engineering principles. But as she worked, the facility's electromagnetic sensors began detecting unusual field fluctuations emanating from the containment cell. She's building some kind of resonance device, Blake said, his tentacles frozen over his controls. But that's impossible. She doesn't understand our technology. She can't possibly know how to. His words trailed off as Luna completed her improvised construction and placed it against the containment barrier. The device began emitting a low-frequency hum that seemed to harmonize with the barrier's own energy field. She's not trying to break the barrier, Nimera realized with growing horror. She's trying to make it resonate at its natural frequency. What does that mean? Kelvak demanded. It means she understands something about energy fields that we don't. Every barrier has a resonant frequency. If you can match it exactly, you can amplify the field's own oscillations until... The containment barrier flickered, just for a microsecond, but long enough for Luna to slip her hand through the momentary gap and reach the external control panel. Her fingers found the emergency maintenance access port, a feature so obscure that most of the facility's own technicians didn't know it existed. How does she know about that? Korth whispered. Because she's been listening, Nimera said. Every conversation we've had, every system diagnostic, every routine maintenance announcement. She's been building a complete operational manual for this facility just by paying attention. Luna's improvised resonance device continued its work, creating brief moments when the barrier's integrity wavered. During each flicker, she made rapid adjustments to the maintenance panel, her movements suggesting intimate familiarity with the system's architecture. She's not trying to escape, Nimera realized. She's reprogramming the containment protocols. Emergency lights began flashing as Luna's modifications took effect. The gravitational field fluctuated wildly before settling at normal Earth levels, and the neural dampening field shut down entirely. The atmospheric controls shifted to what the computer now recognized as optimal human environmental conditions. She's turned her prison into a habitat, Korth said in amazement. She's actually improving her living conditions while we watch. But Luna wasn't finished. Her next target was the observation camera system, which she approached with the same methodical precision. Using components from her resonance device, she began constructing what appeared to be a signal amplifier. What's she doing now? Kelvak asked, though his voice had lost all trace of its earlier confidence. She's hacking our communication system, Blake reported, his voice barely audible. Somehow she's turning the observation cameras into a transmission array. She's calling for help. On the facility's main display, Luna looked directly at the camera and spoke clearly into her improvised communicator. This is Communications Specialist Luna Martinez calling Earth Command. I'm transmitting from coordinates, well, let's just say I'm visiting some new friends who were very interested in human capabilities. Mission status, reconnaissance complete, beginning diplomatic phase now. She smiled that same peaceful, satisfied smile they'd seen before. Oh, and Commander Kelvak, you were absolutely right about one thing. Humans are remarkably good at figuring out how to make bigger, stronger opponents work against themselves. Thank you for the demonstration opportunity. The communication ended, leaving the observation chamber in stunned silence. Luna had just turned their own facility into a transmission station, using nothing but spare parts and 3 days of careful observation. Sir, Blake whispered, long-range sensors are detecting multiple ships approaching our position. Human ships. Luna waved cheerfully at the camera, then settled back into her meditation pose. Still imprisoned, still contained, but somehow completely in control of the situation. Computer, estimate time until human reinforcements arrive, Commander Kelvak ordered, his forearms trembling with what might have been rage or terror. Based on transmission origin and known human vessel capabilities, estimated arrival time is 14 hours, 37 minutes. The AI responded with mechanical precision that somehow made the news more terrifying. 14 hours, Korth repeated slowly. 14 hours with a human who just demonstrated she can reprogram our systems using water dispenser parts. She's still contained, Kelvac insisted, but his voice lacked conviction. The primary barriers are holding. She can't actually escape. As if responding to his words, Luna stood up and walked to the center of her cell. She picked up one of the remaining dispenser components, a thin metallic strip about the length of her forearm, and began flexing it between her hands. The motion looked casual, almost absent-minded, like someone fidgeting with a paperclip during a boring meeting. "What's she doing now?" Blax asked, his tentacles hovering nervously over the emergency lockdown controls. "Testing tensile strength and flexibility coefficients," Nim, Era said quietly. "She's determining exactly how much force that metal can withstand before breaking, and how far it can bend before losing structural integrity." Luna continued her apparent fidgeting, but her movements became more systematic. She was measuring angles, testing leverage points, calculating stress distributions. But what looked like nervous energy was actually advanced materials analysis conducted with nothing but her hands and eyes. "She's weaponizing it," Korth realized. "A simple metal strip, and she's turning it into some kind of tool or weapon." "Impossible," Kelvac scoffed. "It's just scrap metal. What could she possibly do with?" Luna flicked the metal strip with her wrist. The improvised projectile struck the containment barrier at precisely the right angle to create a harmonic resonance that sent vibrations throughout the facility's superstructure. Lights flickered. Gravity generators hiccuped. The neural dampening field fluctuated. "She's testing our structural integrity," Nim, Era breathed. "One piece of scrap metal, and she's conducting architectural analysis of the entire facility." But Luna wasn't finished. She began moving around her cell in what appeared to be random patterns, but each step was precisely calculated. She was mapping acoustic properties, identifying resonant frequencies, and locating stress points in the facility's framework. Every movement gathered data about their supposedly impregnable prison. "She's hunting us," Korth said suddenly, his scarred exoskeleton reflecting the emergency lighting. "We're sitting here thinking we're the researchers, and she's treating us like prey." "That's ridiculous," Kelvac protested. "She's locked in a cell. We have superior technology, superior numbers, superior—" Luna looked directly at the observation camera and spoke in a conversational tone. "Commander Kelvac, I can hear your conversation through the ventilation system. The acoustic properties of your facility are really quite interesting. Sound travels along the air ducts and gets amplified by the metallic surfaces. I've been listening to your security briefings for the past 3 days." The observation chamber fell silent. Luna continued, her voice carrying the casual tone of someone discussing the weather. "Dr. Nimara, I particularly enjoyed your behavioral analysis reports. Very insightful, though I think you underestimated human adaptability by approximately 47%. Blex, your technical specifications were invaluable for understanding your containment systems. And security, Chief Korth." She paused, her smile becoming slightly sharper. "You might want to check the structural integrity of Section C7. I noticed some concerning stress fractures during my architectural survey." Korth's claws flew over his controls, pulling up structural diagnostics. His expression shifted from skepticism to alarm as the data appeared. "She's right," he whispered. "Section C7 shows microfractures that weren't there yesterday. How could she possibly know about structural damage she can't even see?" "Because she's been conducting systematic analysis of everything we've shown her," Nimera said, her scales rippling with a mixture of fear and professional admiration. "Every response we've given, every system we've activated, every conversation we've had in her presence. She's been reverse engineering our entire operation." Luna sat down again, but this time her posture was different. She wasn't meditating, she was waiting. Like a spider that had finished building its web and was now simply observing the prey struggling in the strands. "Gentlemen," she said pleasantly, "I believe it's time we discussed terms for my diplomatic immunity. My government should be arriving soon, and I think they'll be very interested in your research methods." The facility's lights flickered again, and somewhere in the distance, structural supports groaned under stresses they'd never been designed to handle. Luna Martinez had turned their own technology into her hunting ground, and they were rapidly discovering that the apex predator had never actually been captured at all. "Computer, emergency containment override," Kelvac commanded, his voice cracking with desperation. "Deploy maximum security protocols." He asked the cell if necessary. Unable to comply, the AI responded with infuriating calm. "Security systems have been reprogrammed. New authorization codes required." Luna's laughter drifted through the speakers, warm and genuinely amused. "Oh, Commander, you still don't understand, do you? I didn't escape your containment. I improved it. Those authorization codes you need? They're biometrically locked to me now. Apparently, your own security system has decided I'm the facility administrator." Nimara stared at the human in a mixture of horror and professional fascination. "How? How did you gain administrative access to our most secure systems?" "Simple," Luna replied, stretching comfortably in her cell. "You told me. Every diagnostic you ran, every system check you performed, every conversation about security protocols while thinking I couldn't hear you. I just listened and learned. Humans are very good at pattern recognition, you see. It's how we survived long enough to become apex predators." "Apex predators?" Kelvac scoffed, though his mandibles were clicking with nervous energy. "You're a single individual locked in a containment cell. Hardly an apex anything." "Am I locked in?" Luna asked thoughtfully. "Because from my perspective, I'm sitting in a facility that now responds to my voice commands. It's surrounded by aliens who can't figure out how to regain control of their own technology. While my government approaches with diplomatic immunity and a very keen interest in your research methods." She tilted her head. "Tell me, Commander, who exactly is contained here?" The facility's main display suddenly activated, showing external sensor readings. Multiple human vessels had appeared on the edge of scanning range, but were approaching with the measured confidence of a species that had never encountered a problem they couldn't eventually solve. "You see," Luna continued conversationally, "humans learned a very important lesson during our evolutionary development. The biggest predator isn't always the one with the sharpest teeth or the strongest claws. Sometimes, the apex predator is the one smart enough to make the environment work for them instead of against them." Korth's security console began displaying system diagnostics that showed Luna hadn't just reprogrammed their containment protocols. She had optimized their entire facility, improving efficiency ratings, reducing power consumption, and eliminating what her analysis had identified as 17 critical safety vulnerabilities. "She didn't break our systems," Blykes whispered in amazement. "She fixed them. She made them better." "That's what humans do," Luna said gently. "We adapt. We improve. We turn problems into solutions and obstacles into opportunities. You thought you were studying a primitive species, but what you actually did was give an apex predator 72 hours to analyze your technology and figure out how to make it work better." The human ships were now close enough for visual confirmation. Sleek vessels that moved with the purposeful efficiency of a species that had learned to thrive in the hostile environment of space itself. "Final lesson, gentlemen," Luna said, standing and walking to the containment barrier that she could now deactivate with a thought. "Next time you encounter humans, remember this: we're not dangerous because we're violent. We're dangerous because we're curious." And when curious humans have time to think, she smiled that peaceful, terrifying smile one last time. Well, you've seen what happens when curious humans have time to think. The containment barrier shimmered and vanished. Luna Martinez stepped out of her cell and walked toward the exit, leaving behind a facility that now worked better than it ever had before, and 3 aliens who would never again underestimate the tactical thinking of apex predators disguised as primitives.